Okay, so believe it or not, I woke up this morning to a ton of snow all over the place. It happened to be a nice day and all of the snow has melted. But this morning I decided that I needed to devote today's video to a story, a very special story. And the reason I chose to do it today is because the moment I looked out my window this morning and saw that snow, for about 10 seconds, my heart started racing and I had all of these scary negative thoughts in my head, and I realized you guys don't really know why I would have those thoughts. So I've alluded to it a little bit in the vlog, but right now I'm going to go in depth about one of the most life-changing and also close to life-ending experiences that I've ever had in my life when I got frostbite and got stuck in a canyon in Utah by a snowstorm and had to get rescued by the Forest Service. No jokes. Ah! Chicken just pecked my ass. What you doing? Don't you do that. So it was 2013, my first year at Colorado College, and every 3.5 weeks at my school we get a 5-day break where students go backpacking or skiing or just chill in their dorm or go home, do whatever they want. When I got to CC, I was really into backpacking. I still am into the idea of backpacking, I just haven't done it too much post the story that I'm telling you right now. But it was third block break. I had just led 2 backpacking trips unaffiliated with the school, just new friends that I had made. I had led 2 very successful backpacking trips before, and this was the third block break, and I gathered up a little crew of new friends to go hiking in the canyons of Utah because it was getting a little cold in Colorado. Now, if you know me personally, you know I'm a planner. I like to plan things. So before this trip, I had scanned in very detailed USGS topographic maps from our map library at my school of our exact route, which was in Dark Canyon, I think just southeast of Canyonlands National Park. I had talked to the park ranger a week ahead of time who had informed me that there's expecting a potential chance of 1 to 5 inches of snow, no big deal, and I organized everything. It was my trip, so just as all the other backpacking trips that I had led, we got into the car. It was a group of me and 4 other friends. We drove all day to the trailhead, woke up, and it just started to snow a little bit, but by the first day of hiking, it was beautiful, all the snow had melted, and all was great. I had backpacked about 300 miles worth of backpacking in the previous 2 years before that trip, and all of them, granted, were in pretty warm weather, but I did it in trail running shoes, like pretty much tennis shoes with a little bit of extra grip, but not boots. So I didn't want to change it up this time, and I went out with this trip on my trail runners. Not a good choice in retrospect. So we're hiking, having a grand old time, and after the first night, we're about 10 miles into the canyon. So we had hiked all the way down, and now we're just hiking on the stream bed with big, 1,000-foot canyon walls on each side. We woke up after that first morning to about a foot of snow, more than the park ranger even said was expected for the entire 3 nights that our trip was gonna be. But we weren't scared, we kept hiking, having a good time, and by that second hiking day, about midway through, we figured we were about halfway done with our trip, so there was no point in turning around, but we knew we were in a bad situation. I'm talking snow to my knees. I'm 6'2", and remember, I wasn't wearing boots. Visibility starts to get really hard. We can't even make any sight of the trail at this point because, if there's that much snow, you can't see the path. So I was just navigating in this snowstorm. It hadn't been sunny for about 24 hours at this point with my topographic maps. It got to the point where we were lost. Not lost, we knew we were somewhere on the trail, but in terms of getting to our car that we had parked, that was gonna be too challenging. We just couldn't do it. I was the leader of this trip. I had to keep my composure. So the entire time throughout everything I'm about to tell you, I kept it pretty cool. I had butterflies in my stomach the whole time, as you naturally should when you're kind of lost in the snow, in the wilderness, but I tried to keep morale high. I was making jokes, but let me tell you a little bit about how my friends were feeling. Now, these are all beautiful people. They're some of my closest friends now, and we're still all good friends. This didn't tear up any friendships, this trip. It only enhanced it. But it got to the point point where we were hiking, probably 1 mile every 4 or 5 hours, just trudging through the snow, absolutely freezing, numb hands, numb feet. We didn't take off our socks or gloves for the 4 days that we were there. We were only supposed to be there for 3, but I'll get into that later. We're freezing, we're scared, and my friends start to express that, obviously. People are crying, people are just sharing that. Are we gonna die out here? Are we gonna be found? Is someone gonna help us? What do we do? So the day that we were supposed to finish our hike, we woke up in the morning on this sketchy side of a freaking cliff in the snow. We're just sopping wet, sleeping all clumped together in a pile. It was terrible. And I just came up with the idea of, guys, should I just take out my phone and try to, call my mom or something to see if this can help? Not that we would get service, but should I just try it? It was about 6 in the morning, and we had hiked till midnight or 1 a.m. the night before, which is unheard of in backpacking, but we were going so slow and we were so scared, we just wanted to keep moving, even though we were sort of blindly going in some direction. So I turn on my phone and I call my mom, and she picks up on our home landline, and I just take a deep breath and say, Mom, I just want to let you know we are all okay right now, but we're definitely in a situation that we didn't expect. We got stuck in a really big snowstorm. We don't know exactly where we are. If you don't hear from us in the next 4 or 5 hours that we're safe, we need help. She said, okay, that's really scary, but I know you can do this. I trust you. She hung up, and for the next 48 hours, we tried to call someone, anyone, on my phone. We never got service again after that one phone call. That one phone call very well saved our lives, or at least some of our limbs. Another crazy aspect of this story is that my whole family besides me, they were on their Thanksgiving break, and they were going on a trip to Cuba. So they were waking up to fly to Florida to then fly to Cuba, and I was lost in the wilderness. So it totally ruined their trip. It freaked them out. My dad ended up not even going, but I'll get to that at the end. So we keep hiking for the next 2 days. My phone never works again. We don't hear from anybody. We're just roaming around trying to find our car. We had hiked up onto the mesa, and we wake up on Monday. School has already started, and we're still out there, which is just so scary. And it's a beautiful day. We wake up on Monday, and there's tons of snow on the ground, but for the first time it stopped snowing in 4 days, and the sun was on our faces, and it felt amazing. So 3 of the members of our group were like, I can't take this anymore. We're gonna stay in the tent. We're just broken down. We were eating snow for water and melting it on our stove. We were barely eating anything because I was telling everyone that we need to reserve and conserve our food in case we were out there for a long time. So me and my friend Kat, we decide that we're gonna go walk and try to find the car. We thought we were 1 or 2 miles away, and our foot tracks would be so big that we could just trace our steps back at any point, find them, find our group in the tent once we had found the car, and then we'd all get to the car, not that we could drive out, but so that we could be in a warmer, safer place. We're hiking for about 3 hours that day, and then vroom, a helicopter comes right over our head, and I'm just like, what the hell? Save us. The helicopter leaves. My friend was like, do you think that was for us? I was like, I have a Jewish mother. I know that's for us. So we stay put, and about 5 minutes later, 5 snowmobiles come rushing right up to us. They were there to rescue us. They told us that my mom had called the minute I hung up the phone 2 days ago, and that they'd spent the last 48 hours trying to find us, but the storm was so bad that they could, they finally found us this morning when the weather was more mild. I was pumped up with adrenaline. Yes, I was scared that whole trip, and I was happy that they rescued us, but it's not like I was emaciated or injured or anything, or at least I thought. So when the guys rescued us, they were like, okay, so we're going to take you all to the hospital. I was like, no, we need to get back to school. We're going to miss our classes. If you miss 3 classes at my school, you have to drop the block. So I was like, we need to get back. They're like, you are crazy. You're going to the hospital. I thought it was so dumb. Keep in mind, I had tons of adrenaline in my body, and I hadn't taken off my shoes in, a few days. We get to the hospital, they take off my shoes and socks, and my toes are purple and black. They were disgusting. It was so freaky. They put my feet in lukewarm room temperature water, and it felt like I had just stepped in a bed of needles. It was so absolutely painful, and they kept us soaking in there, me and the whole crew, for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. I couldn't walk for days or even weeks. I was just crawling around. I got mild frostbite. For a few months, the doctors didn't know if I would ever get feeling back into my toes. I couldn't feel anything for over a month. My dad ended up not going to Cuba. He came back and helped me out just to get groceries to get to class for a few days. The rest of my family went to Cuba. And all in all, at the end of the day, after a few months, I got my sensation back into my feet. My toenails all fell off, and eventually I healed up, and they're pretty much good now. The only repercussions that I have are on all my fingers and all my toes. When it's cold out, my body immediately sends out an alarm. I'm encouraged never to go skiing or snowboarding again because it's just too cold. Like, all my appendages are really sensitive because I have so much nerve damage there. And people ask me after that trip, what did you learn? What was the big lesson? Are you ever going to go backpacking again? And my response is, yes, of course. I still love backpacking. You shouldn't stop backpacking after an experience like that. The big lesson from that trip was the power of nature. After processing this for a few years, I realized, why do people go backpacking? Why do people want to leave civilization and go into the wilderness? It's to get back to that innate feeling, that urge that we have as primal animals to be in the elements, to be somewhere where you don't know how safe your next step is going to be. We live in a world that is relatively safe if you live in any sort of city or rural area in the United States, or if you're watching this YouTube channel, your life's probably pretty safe. We go backpacking so that we can go into the unknown, and nature is the most powerful thing. The reason we go backpacking is to test our limits and actually experience things like I did. Now, I don't ever want to do that again. I don't want to lose my life backpacking, but the lesson is that nature is badass and you better obey. So yeah, just wanted to share that. If you are curious in hearing more about it and just reading the article because it's kind of funny, I have a link in the description of this video of the Denver Post write-up of what happened. They thought this was news and they wrote about it, and it's kind of funny. Much love, dream extreme, go hiking, love nature, but stay safe.